you can go hard, go all in, but you're probably going to have to make a lot of sacrifices and give up a lot of things.
And sacrifices that's going to affect your mental health. Like, at the end of the day, you don't want to be doing something that's going to jeopardize your mental well-being. And you're not going to recover from it very quickly. It took me years to recover from taking that approach myself.
Yeah.
Welcome back to another episode of the Coaching Society podcast. Today, what Russ and I will be chatting about is all of your burning questions. So we're going to be covering things like gym anxiety, training intensity, bloating.
Calorie deficits, calorie surplus, what to do when the scale weight goes up overnight when you have a social event. So a few of the questions that you guys have asked, and thank you very much for all asking you questions. We can't wait to dive into them. These podcast episodes, we're going to kind of go down two routes with them. So the most recent ones that we've done, which have been a bit more of a backstory on myself and on Michaela, will be quite inspiring and inspirational for you. But these episodes are more so going to be educational and really help you with things that you're struggling with. So if someone has asked us a question, Michaela, like high chances there'll be hundreds of other people who have the same question. So if we give that response, we're helping out hundreds, hopefully.
Absolutely. But before we get into it, as you guys know, we start with our weekly teaching, weekly learning, whatever it may be. So, Russ, do you want to kick us off with yours?
For sure. I've got two bits of advice. First bit is don't try and film a podcast with Heidi, your dog, a big Samoyed, in the room. This took us about 15 minutes to get this one started because we were like, nope, she's going to lay there. And before we actually start, so we can line up all the audio and the video, we have to clap to line everything up afterwards in post-production. And as soon as we clapped, Heidi thought it was playtime and she's trying to jump on our laps every time. So that's tip number one. Tip number two is don't spend about 3 or 4 hours in a small, dark, warm room with lights all around you on a 40-degree day trying to do filming. Because
unless you want sweat dripping down your butt crack.
Yeah, a grey T-shirt that I'm wearing probably isn't the best option. But
I am very no
so probably no real practical advice for anyone because I don't know how many people actually record podcasts here. But
if you do, don't do it.
If you do, don't do it.
No, great. So my recommendation then, a little bit more practical, I suppose. But if you've never been to a chiropractor, book yourself an appointment. Russ and I have just finished a couple of consecutive sessions with Talia at Restore Chiropractic in Moama, and honestly, she is incredible. Like, I've never been to a chiropractor before. To be fair, I've been absolutely petrified my entire life because I'm scared of them breaking my spine on the bed. But she didn't, and it felt great. I feel like a new woman, and yeah, if you're local to Echuca, go hit up Talia at Restore Chiropractic because she's a gem.
Yeah, she is awesome. And my body is in all sorts, which she basically said straight away and confirmed straight away. So hopefully in the coming weeks, we'll be loose as a goose. We'll be ready to go.
Oh, God. Oh, God.
But no, it's been an experience, chiropractic.
No, but it's really interesting, though, because having never been to a chiropractor before, I had no idea of the benefits on your actual central nervous system and everything. So going into this, I was like, oh yeah, like my back's going to feel a little better because I sit at my desk all day. No, I feel great. And I 100% recommend it if you haven't been already.
And you're not real, like, you don't have many injuries. You're super flexible. So you were kind of thinking you were going in there with like no issues almost.
I was going in for a massage.
Yeah, literally. You said to me, what am I actually going to tell her that I need done? Like, I'm fine. And then, yeah, all of a sudden, snap, crackle, pop. But
no, getting the report back, like it's blown my mind as to actually my pelvis is out a little bit. My nervous system is not operating how it should. So, yeah, it's opened my eyes to a lot of things. So, go to a chiropractor. They're great.
Yes, love it. One other thing to add, I forgot to add at the start, probably should have added at the start for everyone who's 5 minutes in or so now. But if you listen to your podcast on Apple Podcasts, head there. So if you're having to watch this on YouTube now and you'd prefer to listen to it on Apple Podcasts.
We are now on Apple Podcasts.
We're now on Apple Podcasts because apparently that's a thing. I didn't even know it was a thing. But head over there if you prefer listening over there. We will be posting there as well.
Right, let's get into it.
Shall we dive in? Okay, cool. Question 1. What to do if the scale weight goes up after a social event?
Well, first of all, my biggest piece of advice here is if you have a social event, expect it to go up the next day. Like, be realistic about what's probably going to be coming up on the scales the next day if you weigh yourself. Because if you're going into this event, you know, doing whatever it may be, going out for dinner, whatever, jumping on the scales the next day and then being mortified by it going up like a kilo or two, you're probably going to freak out. So almost expect it and then be okay with it going up.
Yeah, and prior to even expecting it to go up and expecting the weight to go up after the event, you want to make sure that you know that that event's happening and be hyper organized with your schedule. So it's something we ask all of our clients in our check-ins each week is what roadblocks have you got coming up in the upcoming week and how do you proactively plan to overcome them? And that question there means that all of our clients and like you guys should be really, really organized with the social events that you have coming up so that you can then make sure that you get all your training sessions done leading up to them, that you get all your nutrition on track leading up to it. It doesn't mean you have to do anything different with your nutrition or your training, but you might just do everything a little bit better and a bit more of 100% rather than 80%. Then my best bit of advice after social events and the scale weight going up and shooting up, which is to be expected, is to just get straight back on track and don't try and compensate. So many people think that they've got to like undereat to try and get that scale weight back down as quick as possible. Just get straight back on track. Like let's say, for example, your calorie intake goal is 2,000 calories and you have a social event, you overindulge in food, alcohol, whatever it might be, and the scale weight does go up by a couple of kilos, then don't worry about trying to undereat at like 1,500 calories and like starve yourself for 3 or 4 days to get it back down as quick as possible, because that will create a really, really bad and I guess negative relationship with food and your nutrition. We want to try and just get right back into the swing of things exactly as you were previously.
Expect it, be organised, and then just get on with your day.
Yeah, and it will
really not big of a deal.
It will come back down as well. Like it will definitely come back down. So when it comes to your scale weight fluctuating and the fluctuations that do occur, you have to have 7,700 calories over your daily maintenance intake. So let's say, for example, your maintenance for ease of numbers is 2,000 calories. To gain 1 kilo of body fat, you have to have 7,700 calories over that 2,000, which would be 9,700 calories.
That's a lot of food.
So if you look at the scales and it goes up by a kilo, ask yourself, did I have almost 10,000 calories to gain 1 kilo of body fat?
And if you did, my days.
Kudos to you, like
Kudos
good job,
to you.
like bloody hell. But then you'll just then know that it's just the water retention from the carbohydrates that you consume, the extra food that you've consumed, and your digestion.
Sodium in your diet, everything.
Yeah, and the food hasn't even passed you yet, so
you haven't gained a kilo worth of body fat overnight. It's pretty much impossible. So expect it. Go into it very realistically, knowing that you didn't gain a kilo of body fat, and then just be organised and move on. Yeah. It's as simple as that.
And in the big picture, look at the overall trends that occur. So if you're looking at the week and you nail your nutrition Monday to Friday, it drops, your scale weight drops a couple hundred grams every day and you lose a kilo. And then it goes back up a kilo on the weekend, which we know isn't body fat because it's happened so quickly, it's just water weight. It comes back down again on the Monday and Tuesday and then goes lower than it was on the Friday before that and then goes back up again if you have another social event and then it goes back down over time. Just think that your scale weight shouldn't be dropping in a linear fashion. It will always fluctuate up and down. That is completely normal. And that's how we want to make sure we do create a sustainable approach with your fat loss goals, because you're a human being. You're going to have social events. You're going to have things pop up. So,
and you never know. You might just need to do a poo.
Exactly. Go for a shit and then jump on the scales and see how you go.
If you do a poo and then weigh yourself, you probably lost 500 grams, Joel.
Just fucking say it how it is, babe.
Anyway,
good job.
Moving on.
Love it. Cool. Question 2. How do I know if I'm training hard enough?
Yeah, that's a good one. I feel like this is such a common thing amongst so many gym goers, and I see it honestly on a day-to-day basis. In the gym, people just flapping around, like wasting their time. Like if you're going to go to the gym, if you're going to dedicate an hour, 45 minutes to training, train hard. Like give it a good crack. So my kind of number one thing that I would look out for, and this is kind of what I would look out for when I was PTing on the gym floor, is how your first rep looks compared to your last rep. Your first rep should be pretty cruisy. Like you've got no lactic acid buildup. You're probably quite, you don't have as much fatigue. Your final rep on that set should be a grind. Like you should be pushing hard. You should almost look like you're about to pop like a blood vessel in your eyeball. Probably not that extreme, but you know what I mean. Like it should be hard. It should be slow. Your tempo should be slowed down. It should look difficult. And if it doesn't look difficult and or feel difficult, chances are you're probably not training hard enough.
Yeah, definitely. You need to be pushing hard. The reason you need to be pushing hard, like let's say you have a set of 10 and your rep range is 10 reps and you've got to try and aim for 10. You might do a set of 8 and those first 8 are just building you up for those final 2 reps, which are the most important. So that's where it's super important to get a heavy enough weight that is going to be challenging enough. Now, one thing that you can do to test this, to go, okay, am I lifting a heavy enough weight for the number of reps that I have, is on the first, second, last set of whatever exercise you want to test yourself on, just do as many reps with that weight as possible. Keep the technique the same, keep the tempo the same and the control, and just do as many reps as you possibly can until you literally fail. Obviously do that safely, but fail the set and get used to failing, because that shows you where you are in terms of your rep maxes. And we often teach our clients rep maxes, and what that means is basically, let's say again, we've got a set of 10. If you want to be using a 10 rep max, that would mean you physically cannot do 11 reps with that weight. Okay, if you were to increase the weight, you wouldn't get to 10. If you were to try and get to 11, you would fail the 11th rep. And that shouldn't necessarily be always like the case with every single set that you do and every single exercise that you do with how hard you should be pushing. But that gives you a good idea as how hard you should actually push, because that's where you're going to get the most benefit in terms of building muscle and building strength.
And I think that it's really important to know this red line. Know this point where you're like, I couldn't push harder if I tried. If you've been, a gym goer for a little while now and you've never actually experienced what that red line feels like, you need to go in there and you need to do it and you need to experience it, because until you've done that, you don't actually know if you have more left in the tank to give. So do it, fail safely. Obviously, that's really important. So set up your safety rails, for the love of God. I've seen way too many gym fails or accidents without safety rails. Yeah. It kind of gives me like PTSD from when I worked in the gym. But learn that red line, and honestly, it will take your training to the next level. And you're going to feel far more accomplished within your training as well if you're doing it that way, compared to just flapping around like a flop.
Yeah, flapping around like a flop.
I don't mean to offend anyone, but...
Coaching Society's next merch, flapping around like a flop. Don't flap around like a flop. I love it.
Sometimes the shit that comes out of my mouth, I don't know.
I know. Anyway. I think with that, like, that's why you've got a certain number of reps on your program. Like, all of your programs will be different. Every one of our clients' programs will be different based on their journey and the phase that they're in. And that's how we as coaches will dictate how intense you will be training, is by giving you a rep range. So, for example, if we give you a rep range of 15, we know that you're going to be using quite a light weight compared to if we give you a rep range of 5, where you're going to be using quite a heavy weight, because if you're pushing to a point where, or lifting at a point where 5 reps is tough, you will be obviously lifting at a higher intensity when we look at the amount of weight that you're lifting.
Spot on.
Love it. Number 3. Should I do a calorie deficit or a calorie surplus?
Well, straight off the bat, it depends on your goals. Like, what are you trying to achieve here? Like, they're two very, very different goals, I guess, and you need to almost work out and do a bit of goal setting yourself to be like, right, do I want to build? Do I want to cut? What is it that I want to do? Because doing both at the same time, very hard.
Yeah, and like, let's differentiate the difference between them as well, in case people don't know. So you basically have your calorie maintenance, which is the number of calories that you burn on a day-to-day basis for you to maintain your body weight exactly, which has multiple different factors like your lean body mass, your BMR, your energy expenditure each day, and your activity levels. So all of that is calculated. You can use calculators online, or you can use ours. But that is all calculated to work out your maintenance level of calories. So how many calories you burn on a day-to-day basis, basically to maintain your weight. Then if we're looking to gain weight, we want to be in a calorie surplus, eating more than that amount. If we want to lose weight or lose body fat, we would eat under that amount, being in a calorie deficit. So that's where it is super crucial to firstly understand the difference between the two.
And know that they're on opposite ends of the spectrum.
And then get really, really crystal clear on your goal. So many people, probably one, I guess, common term that people use that we hear all the time that kind of strikes a chord with me is like people saying they want to tone up, and then they don't know whether they want to go into that surplus or they want to go into a deficit. They're like, oh, I want to build muscle, but I want to lose body fat.
What does tone look like for you?
Exactly. Like tone up means two things. Tone up can either mean lose body fat so you can see the muscle underneath it, so you create that toned look, or it can be build muscle if you've already lost the body fat to create that toned look. So you want to make sure that you go either into a surplus, into a build phase to build muscle, or you go into a deficit to lose body fat, and make sure you go with one rather than both.
And it's going to overwhelm you so much if you go into this and trying to do both at the same time or not being crystal clear on your goals. So be crystal clear on what it is that you want to achieve. Tackle one first and then almost like move into different stages of your journey once you've got that initial one down pat.
Yeah. And you can do both at the same time. You can lose body fat and gain muscle at the same time. However, like with body recomposition, it is very, very tough. So you will see some results like that where people do achieve that, but it is a very, very fine line between how many calories you consume. You have to be super, super strict a lot of the time. It does take a bit longer. Whereas I think mentally, having one specific target and goal that you're trying to work on, you're going to be better. You're going to have far greater opportunities to achieve that goal by just working on one thing at a time.
Especially if you're a beginner as well. Like if you're a beginner, just go for one. Don't try and do it all.
Yeah, absolutely. And from experience, probably not preference, but thing that I would normally do with clients is go for fat loss first. Main reason being is it's a quicker and, as dare I say it, easier process to lose body fat than it is to build muscle, and you'll get far greater reward from that because you'll lose the body fat.
Immediate return.
Yeah, and you do get that really quick return. It could be 8 weeks, 12 weeks. It could be a short time frame to strip some body fat off, and then you can then reverse diet, go to maintenance, and then enter into a build phase, which is a conversation and a topic for a completely different day. So I would probably go that way around, but that is very hard to say to everyone, because you might be very different if you're thinking, do I want to go into that surplus or deficit? Do I want to build or do I want to lose body fat? You might be in a very different position, that you might have already been for a fat loss phase and it is time for you to go into a build. So there could be other things like the current state of your metabolism. Like if you've been under eating for 2, 3, 4, 5 years in some cases, then you do need to go through a reverse diet straight away just to fix your metabolism and get you back into a healthy metabolic state before you even tackle fat loss or building or anything like that. So take this advice with a grain of salt, pinch of salt, whatever it's called, because it is very different for each individual, which is why we prefer to work on this kind of advice on a one-to-one basis, which is obviously what we do with our one-to-one clients. So, yeah. And if you do have that question, just shoot it over to us, let us know, and we'll point you in the right direction with which one you want to go for. Cool. Next one. Number 4. Do you think I can lose 12 kilos in 8 weeks? I'm going to start with this one. First of all, it depends on who you are and how much you weigh in the starting, to start with. If you weigh 60 kilos, it's going to be very bloody hard to lose 12 kilos in 8 weeks because that's 20% of your body weight. If you weigh 140 kilos, it's going to be a bit easier for you to lose 12 kilos in 8 weeks. So it's a little bit of a shit answer to start with, but let's go with, I guess, a bit more value than that. So when it comes to losing weight and having that weight loss goal, you ideally want to give yourself as long as possible if you want to remain a human being and maintain a sustainable approach. Like you can go hard, go all in and try and lose as much weight, like 12 kilos in 8 weeks if you want, but you're probably going to have to make a lot of sacrifices and give up a lot of things. If you take a longer approach and take longer to get there and take that more sustainable approach, you can maintain all of those social events. You're far more likely to maintain a good relationship with food. You're far less likely to resent and hate the process of dieting, so then you can maintain it for the long term. Like there is one guy, I'm not going to name names, advertising all over on social media to blokes about making sure that they lose the body fat fast and they should be losing 2 kilos per week on average and all of this stuff. But it does create a negative relationship with food. And it also does mean that you have to make a lot of sacrifices if you want to get results like that.
And sacrifices that's going to affect your mental health. Like, at the end of the day, you don't want to be doing something that's going to jeopardize your mental well-being. Like, if you were to go, right, I've got, what was it, 8 kilos?
12 kilos in 8 weeks.
12 kilos in 8 weeks.
Michaela's not a numbers
I hate
person.
numbers. I told you, numerical dyslexia. Got it. Yeah, if you were to do that, like, honestly, like, you're not going to be able to go out with friends. You're not going to be able to have any kind of, like, meals with partners. You're not going to be able to enjoy anything off track. You're going to have to be literally meticulous with your planning. And that is going to be such a downward slope, spiral, vicious shit show of a mess, because I know I've been there, and you're not going to recover from it very quickly. It took me years to recover from taking that approach myself.
Yeah. And we're all for, like, putting in the fucking work, and don't like start your journey and not actually put in any fucking effort. We're not saying that. Like, you need to actually still put in the work when you are doing it, like working on anything. But I think definitely if you have got an event, so for whoever asked this question, for example, you've obviously got something in that 8 weeks time, whether it's like a wedding, whether it's a holiday, whatever it might be. If you have something coming up that you know is coming up later in the year, give yourself time. Like, give yourself at least 4 to 5 months to work on it. And what you can do in that circumstance is aim to get there a month in advance. So what I'm actually doing right now with one of my clients is she's getting married in October, and 1st of September is her end goal. So we're not working to diet down towards October when her wedding is. We're going to get there by September. Two reasons. It's going to be bloody stressful leading into a wedding, so I don't want her like dieting and extreme dieting leading up to the wedding. Second reason is it just gives us a bit of leeway in case shit hits the fan and things don't go as well as we thought they would.
And it's going to.
In the meantime. So it gives us that bit of kind of wiggle room if we don't get there. Whereas if we plan meticulously right up until October for her wedding, so let's say she were to start this diet phase in August, 2 months prior, we don't have much time. We have to get everything right leading up to that social event. We don't have any wiggle room. So if things don't go perfectly, you end up not hitting your goal. You're pretty disappointed. And then you end up resenting the whole process and say that it never worked.
Never return.
And you'll be one of those, I've tried everything and it doesn't work for me type of people.
Literally.
Cool. Anything to add on that?
Nah.
Beautiful. Next question. Last one. Number 5. What's your number 1 tip to overcome gym anxiety?
Yeah, this is a good one. A lot of people probably don't realize this, but I still to this very day have gym anxiety. Like, still to this very day, and I've been training for how many years?
Yeah, a lot of years. I do as well. Like, definitely.
Time. Everyone does, no matter who it is that you see online or in the gym that looks really confident. They probably do have bouts of gym anxiety. So I think I've mastered a couple of techniques to get through this.
Yeah. And I think a lot, just before you go through your techniques, sorry to interrupt, but I think a lot I think a lot of people get gym anxiety because nowadays they're seeing social media and seeing how confident people look like they are in a gym. Now, just bear in mind that people who film themselves in gyms, they might be doing that in a gym where everyone else is filming themselves, so it's really, really normal. Whereas most people in regional Victoria, where most of you guys listening are, you'll be filming yourself in a public gym where there's like everyone's minding their own business. Second thing is those people who are actually filming themselves are probably anxious as fuck. They're just hiding it. And third thing, they might have trained at that gym for a very, very long time. Like if they're actually filming themselves training in the gym and posting it on social media, they're probably an experienced gym goer. So they've probably done it for a while, hence why they look so comfortable doing it. So that whole like look of looking like you shouldn't be anxious in the gym is fucking bullshit. Like if you throw any single person in this world into a random gym, they're going to have some level of anxiety. Mm-hmm. Like I still get it, and I've been going to the gym that we're at for over a year, and our best friends bloody own the place. So, and you'd get it as well.
Literally, all the time.
So how do we overcome it?
How do we overcome it? Well, 2 things, very practical things. I personally wear a hat or a cap every session. If it's very rare that you'd see me in the gym without a hat. It's like my security blanket. So if you're feeling a little bit anxious, if you know, this anxiety could potentially stop you from training and looking after your health and fitness, get a big hat, wear it and just kind of like hide from the world. That's what I do anyway. Second thing is bring some headphones. I use like AirPods, like the in-ear ones, chuck them in my ear holes, put on like a music that like...
I'm glad you don't put them in any other holes.
And this is why we shouldn't have a podcast. Chuck them in your ear holes, put on music that makes you feel good. Sometimes I just turn on the noise cancellation setting and I honestly just listen to complete silence. I'm kind of crazy, so that does calm me. Headphones, cap. I don't try and dress to impress. If anyone's seen me training at Impact in Mama, which is where we train, I kind of look like a 12-year-old boy and I fucking love it. Wear something that's comfortable. Like, don't try and, like, look cute or, I mean, like, if you look great, awesome. But, like, if it makes you feel uncomfortable, wear a baggy T-shirt because that's what I do half the time anyway. And head down and just go for it. Yeah,
go in there and, like, you do have to, although it's cliche to say, you do have to remember that everyone's in there working on themselves and minding their own business. I think it just comes with practice and with time of understanding that. Like, the more and more time you spend in the gym, it's like anything. You were anxious when you first learned to drive a car. So then when you go into, like, now you jump in a car, you don't even think about it. You just turn the ignition on and you're good to go.
The way that I think of it, and this is how I used to explain it to members when I would sign them up at the gym that we used to work at, would be like, your first couple of sessions, like, you're going to look a little bit foreign. Like, you're going to look foreign to the environment. People may look at you like, again, they're probably just too fucking busy staring at their own biceps or whatever it is that they're doing to even kind of notice you. And then the more and more you go, the more and more you turn up, you become like a part of the furniture. Like, you just become a squat rack or you become a leg extension. Like, you just become a part of the furniture and no one even recognizes you anymore. And I'm saying this from literally spending 3 years behind a reception desk just analysing and watching people and how they respond to different environments and how people respond to anxiety, particularly in a gym. So it will get easier, I do promise you.
And one final practical tip that I always give is most people are anxious about the gym for two reasons. The first reason is obviously other people in there, watching them, judging them, blah, blah, blah. We've covered that. The second reason is knowing what to do and having kind of comfortability around all of the machines, free weights, dumbbells. It's that equipment that people get anxious over. So before you start your actual strength-based training session, just go into the gym, sit on an exercise bike, walk on the treadmill, do some form of low-intensity cardio that's not even for cardio, it's just for you to relax, for you to settle the nerves and just settle in. And then you can then work out, okay, what's my first exercise going to be? Hop off the machine, go and do that first exercise. Don't think about anything else. Just think about that first exercise, focus on that one, and then move on to the next.
Yeah, just scope it out. Like, jump on the treadie, have a little bit of a look around, kind of see who's in your environment, who's using what machine you need to use, what weights you need to use. And then once you feel like a little bit more relaxed, then venture out.
Yeah. Beautiful. I think that's a few very, very good points on gym anxiety. And yeah, it will get better, but even if it does get better, it will still always be there. It's just how you manage it and the strategies you use, which with all of those questions that we've answered today, if you have any other bits of advice that you guys might have found that works well with anything that we've given there, we would love to hear it. What we would love to hear more, though, is if you implement anything from any of our content, whether it's on Instagram, whether it's through the podcast, through the Q&As, if you implement anything and it works for you, like, let us know. Yeah, that's why we produce all this content, is to help people. And if it's helping you, reach out and let us know that it's helping.
We've done our job.
Yeah, exactly. We love it. So thank you all for tuning in again this week. Next week, we have another Q&A, don't we? Next week. So we'll pop another Q&A up on Instagram. And
Q&As are kicking off. You guys are loving it.
Q&As are doing great. Yeah, they help out many people. So catch you all in the next one next week. If anyone has any questions on anything from this week, let us know. But have a wonderful week and stay out of the heat.
Bye.
See you.